Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Great to have you aboard. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. So our episode today is a challenge. It's a question. We're going to walk you through how to answer it. We're going to walk you through how to get unstuck. And our episode is, why haven't you started yet? That's the question. Serious question. Why haven't you started that business you've been thinking about? Why haven't you written the book? Why haven't you applied for the job? Why haven't you gotten serious about your health? Why haven't you made that call? Why haven't you had the conversation? Why haven't you launched the idea? Why haven't you changed the habit or taken the first real step towards the life that you say you want? Most people have something sitting in the back of their mind that matters deeply to them. Something meaningful, something important, something they know they should do. And yet they wait. They wait for the right time. They wait for more confidence. They wait for more clarity. They wait for less stress. They wait for better circumstances. They wait for permission. They wait for a version of themselves that feels more ready than the one they are right now. And before they know it, months turns into years, right? We all know how this works. We've all been there. So today, I want to talk about a question that hits almost everybody at some point in life. Why haven't you started yet? It's that straightforward. Why haven't you started yet? Because the truth is, most people don't fail most people don't fail to start because they're lazy. They fail to start because something psychological is getting in the way. Their mind is trying to protect them from something: discomfort, embarrassment, uncertainty, disappointment, failure, judgment. The problem is the same mental patterns that are trying to protect you are also keeping you trapped and holding you back. That's what we're going to get into today. I want to talk through the top 5 psychological reasons people don't pursue what matters to them, the science behind why that happens, and most importantly, some practical ways you can break through those blocks and finally get moving. Because if something matters to you, you owe it more than endless thought. You owe it action. So, let's jump into it. Point number 1 here. Fear of failure makes an action feel safer than trying. Straight up, plain and simple. This is the first reason that people don't start. They're afraid to fail. It's that basic. I don't just mean they're afraid the project won't work. I mean they're afraid of what failure might mean about them personally. That's what makes it so personal. That's why it feels so important. It's one thing to fail at something you don't care very much about. It's another thing entirely to fail at something that's tied to your identity, your dreams, your purpose, your calling, your self-worth. When something means a lot to you, taking action becomes emotionally risky. Because once you try, the outcome becomes real. If you never start the podcast, like the one I'm doing right now, you can always tell yourself you would have been great at it. If you never write the book, you can always imagine it would have been powerful. If you never launch the business, you can always protect the fantasy that you would have made it work. But the moment you begin, fantasy is replaced by reality, and reality can really beat up your ego. That's why a lot of people live in hesitation. Not because they do not care, but because they care so much that the thought of failure feels unbearable. It's one of the reasons procrastination is so deceptive. People think procrastination is mainly about time management, and bad time management in particular. A lot of times that's not it. A lot of times it's emotional management. Delay becomes a way to avoid emotional pain of possibly falling short. Think about that. Some people are not protecting their future, they're protecting their ego. And I get it. Nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to look foolish. Nobody likes to put themselves out there and come up short. But here's the problem. If you make avoiding failure your top priority, you also make avoiding growth your top priority. That's not a place we want to be. You cannot become stronger, wiser, sharper, tougher, more skilled, or more accomplished without risking failure. That's just the trade-off you have to make. Failure is not proof that you should stop. Sometimes it is. Most of the time it's not. A lot of times, failure is simply proof that you have finally entered the arena. You are actually taking action, and that's okay. So the practical takeaway here is, if this is where you're at, if this is your block, here's what you need to do. Stop treating failure like a verdict on your worth. Stop assigning value to it. Treat it like data. Treat it like information. This is a major mental shift that I'm asking you to make. Instead of saying, if this does not work, that means I'm not good enough. Say, if this does not work, I learned something that I could not have learned by standing still. I have more data, more information now because I took action. That changes everything. One way to do that is to shrink the first step. Instead of trying to hit a home run, try to get on base, using a baseball analogy. A lot of fear comes from the fact that people imagine the whole mountain ahead instead of the first step. Don't ask, how do I build the whole company? Ask, what's one action I can take right now this week? Don't ask, how do I become a great speaker? Ask, what is one room I could speak in right now? Don't ask, how do I completely transform my life? Ask, what's one meaningful thing I can do today, right now? That gets you started. You don't beat failure by waiting for courage to magically appear, because it ain't coming. You beat it by moving while fear is still present. You can only be brave when you're scared, by definition. Being brave means being scared of something and doing it or facing it anyways. The truth is, courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. Okay? So that's point number one. Remember those tips. Boil that down to steps you can take right now. And we're going to learn to think about failure as feedback. Instead of saying failure, why don't we say outcome? I got a different outcome than the one I wanted. How do I change my actions to get the outcome that I wanted? Real straightforward. We got to make that mental shift so we can get moving here. Point number two, perfectionism makes people wait for an ideal moment that's never coming. This is the second reason that people do not start that gets praised way too often. Perfectionism. Perfectionism sounds noble. It sounds disciplined. It sounds like high standards. It sounds like excellence. All of that's cool. But a lot of time, perfectionism is just fear dressed up as virtue. Perfectionists often say things like, I just want to do it right. I just need more time. I just need to get clearer. I'm still refining it. I'm not quite ready. I want to make sure it's really good before I put it out there. On the surface, that all sounds reasonable, doesn't it? When we say those things out loud, they sound reasonable. But underneath that, what's often really happening is, I don't want anyone to see me fail at this, so I'm going to not do it. And that way they can't see me fail. It's a trap. It's a trap we set for ourselves. Perfectionism is not always about having high standards for the work. A lot of times it's about trying to avoid the vulnerability of being seen in the process. Because when you are starting something meaningful, you are usually not polished yet. You're awkward. You're learning. You're inconsistent. You're still figuring it out. And perfectionists hate that stage. We all hate that stage. Totally get it. They want to skip the messy middle and arrive straight at mastery. Not how life works. Not the way things work. Everything meaningful starts tough. It's a rough road. Every great speaker you hear now once sounded unpolished. Every great writer you read once wrote clunky drafts. Every successful business owner once made beginner mistakes. Every great athlete looked unrefined at some point. Nobody starts at elite. It's not how it works. But perfectionism convinces people that unless they can start at a high level, they should not start at all. Does that sound reasonable to you? It does not to me. That mindset is devastating because it creates an impossible standard. You end up waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, the perfect confidence, the perfect product, the perfect timing, the perfect version of yourself. And meanwhile, the clock keeps ticking and life keeps moving. So let's say this real clearly. Perfectionism does not make people powerful. It makes them late to the party. Late to their own life, late to growth, late to opportunity, late to purpose, late to becoming who they could or should become. So the practical takeaway here for perfectionism is your first version is allowed to be bad. It's that simple. Your first version is not going to be perfect. Learn to accept that. It's not failure. It's a part of the process. Give yourself permission to produce ugly results when you start. Record the first video, even if it feels clunky and stupid. Write the first article, even if it feels rough and no flow to it. Launch the first offer, even if it's not fully polished. Go to the gym, even if your routine is not ideal and you don't know what you're doing. Start before it looks impressive, because done creates momentum. Perfect creates delay. You don't need masterpiece energy at the beginning. You need movement, some type of movement. Just start walking. And once you are moving, then you can improve. Then you can refine. Then you can sharpen. Then you can elevate. but you can improve what you refuse to begin. Okay? So that's our cure for perfectionism. Give yourself permission to suck at something for a while until you get better at it. If you get better at something by not doing it, you'll be the first person in history to take that path and be successful. Not how life works. Perfectionism is an excuse. We got to get rid of it. We got to give ourselves permission to try and not get the result that we want and keep moving forward anyway. Okay, point number 3 is low self-belief makes people doubt that they can follow through. This is the third reason people don't start, is that deep down, they're not sure they can actually do it. This gets into something psychologists call self-efficacy, which is basically your belief that you can take the actions needed to handle a challenge. And this matters more than people realize, because it's not enough to want something. You also have to believe at some level that you can face the difficulty involved in pursuing it. And a lot of people do not believe that. They may say they want the result, but internally they're asking themselves questions like, can I really pull this off? Can I stick with it? Can I learn what I need to learn? Can I survive being bad at it for a while? Can I handle setbacks? Can I stay consistent? Can I keep going when it gets boring, hard, or discouraging? And if their answer internally is shaky, hesitation grows. This is why very capable people often still remain stuck. It's not always a talent problem. Many times it's a trust problem. They don't trust themselves yet. They don't trust their discipline. They don't trust their resilience. They don't trust their ability to adapt. They do not trust that they will stay with it long enough to get good. So they freeze when they mistake that hesitation for a sign that they are not meant for it. But hesitation is not proof that you're incapable. A lot of times it is simply proof that you've not built enough evidence yet. Confidence is not something you sit around and wait to feel. Confidence is built through action. Confidence is actually built through trying, failing, succeeding. That's how you build confidence. That's really important. A lot of people have it backwards. They think once I feel more confident, then I'll start. Wrong. It's almost always the other way around. You begin, you survive, you learn, you repeat, and then confidence grows. Confidence is earned. It's not granted. So the practical takeaway for this one is if you struggle with this, stop trying to talk yourself into confidence with motivational stuff. Build confidence through evidence. That means you start small enough to win consistently. Write one page, make one call, do one workout, watch one video or create one video, make one client outreach, hold one meeting, submit one application, take one step, then do it again and again and again. Keep receipts on your progress. Track the actions you take. Track the promises you keep to yourself. Because every time you follow through, you are sending yourself a message. I am someone who moves. I am someone who can do hard things. I am someone who does not just think about it. I take action. That is how self-belief gets built. Not by hype, not by fantasy, not by waiting for some magic feeling. It's by evidence. You don't need more self-belief before you move. You need more proof, and proof is created by movement. Okay? Number 4, overwhelm and too many options create paralysis. I call it analysis paralysis, right? The 4th reason people don't start, they just get overwhelmed. This is one of the biggest modern problems because of all the information we have available to us. People don't just have one possible path anymore. They have 1,000 experts, 1,000 opinions, 1,000 strategies, 1,000 platforms, 1,000 business models, 1,000 fitness plans, 1,000 productivity systems, 1,000 ways to do it right? And instead of that creating freedom, it creates paralysis in many, many instances. More choice often leads to less action because more options don't make action easier. It makes it harder. You start thinking, should I start a YouTube channel or a podcast? Should I build an email list first or a website first? Should I start with a low ticket or high ticket offer? Should I follow this coach or that coach? Should I do keto or carnivore or macros or fasting? Should I build a personal brand or a business brand? Should I invest in real estate or digital products or stocks or local businesses? And on and on and on. At some point, learning turns into hiding. Research feels productive, but it is not always progress. Sometimes it's avoidance in a very respectable looking form. You still convince yourself that you're preparing, still studying, still gathering information, still getting ready. But the truth is, you are stuck in an endless loop of consumption because choosing a path means closing off other paths. And that is what people do not like. Choice equals responsibility. Once you pick a lane, now you can be judged on what happens in that lane. Now the work gets real. Now you can no longer hide behind possibility. So people keep the options open and they keep themselves stuck. Let me say something that may help you today. You don't need more options. You need fewer decisions. Clarity often comes from commitment, not from endless consideration. You do not think your way into clarity forever. Sometimes you act your way into clarity. The practical takeaway here is to reduce the options. Pick one path for now. It's not forever, it's for now. Pick one and get started. It matters because some people get frozen by feeling every decision is permanent. It's not permanent. You're allowed to adjust. You're allowed to learn. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to improve the strategy later. But you have to choose something first. Pick one business idea to test. Pick one platform to post on. Pick one coach to learn from. Pick one workout program. Pick one project. Pick one next step and then give it a fair effort. Not 2 days, not one emotional afternoon. Give it enough time to reveal whether it has real potential. A lot of people do not fail because they choose the wrong thing. They fail because they never choose anything long enough to build momentum. Right? This is a great thing about health. How many times have you heard someone, well, I tried dieting, but it didn't work. Well, how long were you following your nutrition program? 2 weeks? Okay. Like, did you get out of shape in 2 weeks? No, you did not. Do you think you're going to get back into shape in 2 weeks? No, you are not. You got to commit. You got to commit and be consistent. Small actions over a long period of time yield outsized results. That statement will always be true. And that's the point of number 4. Pick one lane and go. Commit to it, go, see what happens. You can always pivot, refine, learn, and change later. But you're not going to learn anything if you don't start. So let's get started. Point number 5, good intentions are useless without structure. This is the 5th reason people do not start. It's a huge trap. They mistake intention for action. They want to change. They mean well. They're sincere. They're serious. They say, I'm going to start soon. Soon's not a time. That's not definite. I've been thinking a lot about it. Cool story, bro. What are you doing about it? I'm committed this time. Okay, prove it. I really want this. Act like you want it. Don't say you want it. Act like you want it. I know I need to do it. Then do it. I know I need to do it. Then do it. They're not lying when they say these things. They do mean them when they say them. But intention is not behavior. Desire is not execution. This is where so many people lose years of their lives. They think that wanting it badly should somehow be enough to create movement. It is not. Meaningful action requires structure. There's no time attached to it, no place attached to it, no trigger attached to it, no routine attached to it, no system attached to it. You are probably going to fail. It's probably just a wish. And wishes disappear the second life gets busy. Stress shows up. Kids need something. Work gets hectic. You get tired. You get distracted. Something unexpected happens. You don't feel like it. And suddenly the thing that mattered gets pushed again. Not because you didn't care, but because you didn't build a system strong enough to survive real life. This is why vague goals die. I'll start this week. When this week? I'll make time soon. What time and when? What is soon? That's not a time. Time isn't a definite date. I'm going to get serious. Okay, when? You said you're going to get serious. Why not do it now? I'll work on it when things calm down. When's that going to happen? When's life going to get easy? Life doesn't get easy. That's not how it works. The language sounds fine, but it's weak. It leaves too much room for emotion and excuses. Your mind loves vagueness because vagueness delays accountability. Action loves specificity. So the practical takeaway here is to give your goal a time, place, and trigger. We've talked about SMART goals on this channel a lot. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. That's the SMART acronym. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. SMART goals. Instead of saying, I want to write more, I'm going to say every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m., I will write for 30 minutes at the kitchen table. Instead of saying, I need to work out, you say, after I drink my coffee each morning, I will walk for 20 minutes. Instead of saying, I need to build the business, say from 8 to 9 p.m. tonight, I will outline my offer and write the first draft of the landing page. That's how you change vague desire to real behavior. You need structure because motivation is unreliable. Some days you'll feel great. Some days you'll feel flat. Some days you'll feel inspired. Some days you'll feel resistance. A system is going to help you even when the feelings fluctuate. That's what's going to change your life. Not emotional intensity, repeated action. A dream stays a fantasy until it gets a calendar, a location, and a trigger. Like we said earlier, small actions taken over a long period of time consistently yield outsized results, and they always will. So let's take a step back and recap all the things we just talked about. Why haven't you started yet? Maybe it's because you're afraid of failing and not starting feels safer than trying. Maybe it's because you're a perfectionist and you keep waiting for ideal conditions that do not exist. Maybe it's because you don't fully trust yourself yet and you're waiting for confidence that only action can build. Maybe it's because you feel overloaded with too many choices, too much information, and too many opinions. Maybe it's because you have good intentions but no structure strong enough to turn desire into behavior. If any of that hits home, if you're like, hey, that sounds like me, that's good. Not because it's good to be exposed or calling you out, but because clarity is powerful. You can't fix what you won't confront, what you won't admit, what you won't put a label to. And once you see the real block, you can stop blaming yourself in vague ways. You can stop saying, I'm just lazy. You're not lazy. That's probably not the problem. I guess I'm not disciplined. That's probably not the problem either. Maybe I don't want it enough. Maybe, I don't know. I doubt that's the problem if it's really important to you. Maybe I'm just not that kind of person. That's a cop-out. You can be whatever kind of person you want. Maybe you're just stuck in a bad pattern, and patterns can be broken. That's the good news about what we're talking about. So let me leave you with this. If there is something in your life that matters to you, something that keeps tapping you on the shoulder, something you keep thinking about, something you know you should pursue, build, fix, say, or become, then stop waiting for a version of life that removes all discomfort. That version is not coming. That version of life does not exist. You're probably not going to feel perfectly ready. You're probably not going to feel fully confident. You're probably not going to have total clarity. You're probably not going to eliminate all the fear before you begin. And that's okay. Readiness is overrated. Let me tell you that right now. A lot of people are waiting to feel ready when they really need to get moving. You do not need the whole roadmap. You need the next step. You don't need certainty. You need willingness. You don't need perfection. You need action and motion. You don't need more time to think. You need the courage to act. Because here's the truth. The life you want will not be built in your head. It will not be built in your excuses. It will not be built in your research. It will not be built in your intentions. It will only be built when you start. And when you start, it's going to be messy. It's going to be imperfect. It's going to be uncomfortable. And it's going to be uncertain. But it's going to be real. So ask yourself honestly, what have I been postponing that actually matters to me? And then ask the second question that matters even more. What is the first concrete step I can take in the next 24 hours? Not someday, not eventually, not when life calms down, not when you feel more like it, in the next 24 hours. Because momentum is born in action. Confidence is built in action. Identity is shaped in action. Purpose is revealed in action. So once again, why have you not started yet? Maybe you know now from all the things that we covered. So go get started. All right, guys, James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are available there. Links to all the social media accounts are available there. We publish a newsletter every weekday you can subscribe to on our website. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. We do episodes like this that give you real world actions you can take to build the life that you want. We have conversations with awesome people from all around the world and all walks of life who explain to you what they've learned from taking action and getting feedback and using those lessons to build the life that has meaning and value and purpose to them. They're great episodes. They're great people. All of our guests are awesome. We do a live stream every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So there's all sorts of resources here to help you build the life that you want. We can't tell you what's important to you because that's up to you, but we can certainly give you tools and tips and techniques on how to get moving and how to take action to start achieving the things that are important to you. All great stuff. You don't want to miss any of it. Make sure you catch our next episode. We'll see you there.